This is Learning Curves and Coffee, where we skip the perfection, spill the real, and talk parenting, teaching, and personal growth over a hot cup. I'm Ivory, a mother, edupreneur, and your caffeinated co-pilot through the meltdowns, meetings, and magical moments. Let's get into it. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I really always appreciate the support and the likes and the shares and the subscriptions and the feedback. It's been about 2 weeks since I uploaded my last podcast, and as you all know, my goal is to be consistent. However, we are in the tail end of the year of 2025. As I'm recording this, it is a Thursday morning, December the 11th. And so, if you are like me, you are a parent, you are a working parent, you know that this is the time of the year where holiday stuff picks up. Schooling is about to slow down in terms of the winter break. And so Khalil and I are certainly in a space where we are almost at the finish line. Not to, in addition to our daily routine of like school and work and after school activities and just our daily life routine. Of course, as someone who is building a business but also still works full time, I am experiencing a tad bit of burnout. And so I definitely am putting one foot in front of the other as it relates to getting things done in these last couple of weeks of 2025. But things have been great. Things have been moving along, just always per usual. I'm always trying to figure out a way to have some balance. I hear often that that's not often realistic, right? It is to always be in balance, but it is certainly important to me and my mental health and my stability is to have balance. But there are weeks where work consumes me, and there are weeks where parenting consumes me, and then there are weeks where, quite frankly, I will shut down everything and choose not to do anything. And so I haven't had a chance to do that in a while, but I am looking forward to that very soon. With that being said, I am back on my podcast bandwagon because actually, my podcast recordings are probably one of the things that I enjoy the most in terms of all of my work and responsibilities as it relates to embracing neurodiversity, my education consulting business. It's a moment for me to be able to unpack and share with others how I am navigating the journey of being a parent of a child who is autistic, but also sharing insights and educational tools along the way. But it's also a space for me to unpack myself selfishly. And so I enjoy these spaces and I miss it when I'm not able to record. So, very excited to be here. Today, I want to talk about things from a teacher's perspective. So if you're a parent listening to this, I want you to engage as an observer and perhaps putting yourself in the shoes of a teacher. Because you are a teacher truly at home, but also thinking about the relationship you have with your children's teachers or your child's teacher at school, and what that looks like. And if you are an educator, I want you to lean into this as a way to perhaps do some self-reflection and learn about how you want to show up as an educator in the families' lives that you are serving, because teaching is in my opinion, the ultimate act of service. And so I'm going to step back and revisit my years as a teacher and provide you all with some insight and tools on the things I learned along the way, and obviously infusing that with my lens as a parent as well. So let's jump right in. I want to take a sip of my coffee, per usual, to get the day started off right. Okay, so when we talk about engaging or when we talk about teaching, one of the core things that I've observed when I coach teachers that they had a huge barrier with was engaging families. So let's be real. Family engagement is the educational equivalent of a group project. Everybody has expectations. Nobody has the same vision sometimes. And somehow the teacher ends up carrying most of the load and the emotional labor, right? Parents are busy. We have different moving pieces. And so the teacher takes on the responsibility of engaging the family. But here's the truth that no one usually admits. When families feel like true partners, not just people that we email when something goes wrong or warm bodies to sign a sheet, everything shifts. Partnership is key. Behavior improves, attendance improves, confidence improves, and most importantly, learning improves. And yes, even as a teacher, your stress level improves too, because partnership isn't just good for kids, it's good for teachers' sanity, sustainability, and success, because teachers cannot do it alone and parents should not have to. Back in the day when I was an educator, or I'm still an educator, lifelong educator will always be, but when I was teaching in the classroom, we would have twice a year parent teacher conferences, obviously to give you to update on your child's progress, talk about the grades that they received. And I remember, and this would have happened often, but I remember a parent teacher conference early in actually my principal days, and a parent walked into my office with a lot of tension, and I could see on her face that she was preparing for combat. She was ready to, quite frankly, cuss me out. And I was like, okay, what's happening? Usually, key for the leaders out there, when parents are on defense, you go on offense, and that's true for most things, honestly. But I was like, okay, she's in a space. Let's unpack this. But before she even sat down, I could feel the tension radiating off of her, and I asked her, like, what's going on? How can I help you? And she said to me, I feel like every time you all call me, it's only for bad news, right? How many parents out there have that same feeling? And how many teachers or school leaders are guilty of that, right? I know I certainly have been the one that called only when something was going wrong and not necessarily when things were going right. And so that landed for me when she said that, because she wasn't wrong. We were not building partnerships. We were building panic and anxiety and stress in parents and within ourselves in the potential partnership that could grow. Every call, every email, every meeting was about damage control instead of relationship building. And once a family starts associating your name as a teacher or the school with fear or frustration or failure as it relates to their child, they will stop responding to you. Not because they don't care, but because they're tired of being told that what their child isn't, who their child isn't, what their child isn't doing, and instead of being asked who their child is, right? I talk about this in my Transformative Parent Playbook that partnership begins when families stop feeling evaluated and start feeling invited, right? When parents stop feeling judged and are engaged as experts in their child's life. So, let's ground this in what the research actually says, because partnership isn't fluffy and it isn't always easy. It's good work, but it doesn't always feel good. It truly is a strategy, an academic strategy. It is not reactive. it is intentional, right? So, according to the Harvard Family Research Project, meaningful family engagement can increase student achievement by almost 20%. Students with engaged families are twice as likely to earn A's, more likely to attend school consistently, and less likely to repeat the same grade. But here's the kicker: 53% of families, especially families from marginalized communities, meaning families with minimal support, minimal resources, families who are overworked and underpaid, families of color, say that they don't feel like partners in their child's education. Think about that. 53%, more than half of Black and brown and immigrant families, and families again who are overworked and underpaid, they say that they don't feel like partners in their child's education. Make that make sense for me as of someone who is raising a child. If I'm not a part of my child's educational journey, how do we expect them to truly succeed? In practice, that also means that half of our families are walking into school buildings carrying some mix of mistrust, some mix of trauma, intimidation, fear, before we even say hello. And I'm going to be completely honest and transparent because we've also had this scenario. Oftentimes, when you walk into the school, before there is a hello, the front office energy is sometimes negative, sometimes frustrating. Sometimes the person, the front office clerk, is scouring at you. There isn't a warm and welcoming presence, right? So that adds to the anxiety. But let's talk about why this is difficult. The part that educators rarely say out loud is that family engagement is emotionally taxing. Teachers also feel overwhelmed. They also feel judged, just like parents. And both sides walk around with, right? We all have our stories. We all come to this work with our own preconceived notions and experiences. On top of that, schools tend to communicate in a dialect and a jargon that is very education rooted. Terms like below benchmark or non-compliant or RTI, response to tier interventions, right? These things sound like warning letters instead of invitations. And so how are we more mindful of how we talk to parents in a way that they understand? I'm also guilty of that as a lifelong educator and a reader and a researcher. I find myself talking often in academic terms, and I try to be mindful of how to translate that to everyday conversations. Not to mention when you add on for Black and Latinx families, families of color, the past negative experiences that they've had with schools, cultural misalignment for sure. So schools often demand conformity instead of embracing the uniqueness of our families. There's also a power dynamic there. There's a belief that schools hold the expertise, not taking into account families' lived experience, right? And this fear of being labeled difficult, right? Just like with our children, we don't want our children to be labeled difficult, but also parents are often labeled difficult when they are advocating for their child. Partnership is complicated because humans are complicated, but complicated doesn't mean impossible. It means intentional. It means that we need to become intentional. So this is where my discovery, acceptance, and embracing framework creates real movement. First, in the discovery phase as a teacher, notice how you communicate. What's the tone of your emails? How often do you reach out when things are going really well versus when things are going wrong? who responds and who avoids, right? And what families haven't you heard from all year? Think about those things on a regular basis as an educator, and if you're truly committed, commit to reforming some of those behaviors if they are not in alignment to building a partnership rooted in trust. And then there's the acceptance piece. Accept that partnership requires some vulnerability on both sides, truly. In my own dynamic with my son and the teachers he's had over the years, as an educator, I'm very clear to create boundaries and allow them to do their job, but I also find a sweet spot to allow them to know that I am not the expert in my child's life, and so I want to meet them where they are, and so I lean in to ask questions. I ask about his day. If something is happening at home, I email and let them know, hey, I'm observing these behaviors at home. Are you seeing it at school? Those are vulnerabilities in itself that you can model as a teacher as well to create safe spaces for parents. Also, remember that parents come with their histories, teachers come with their pressures, and nobody's going to get it perfect ever. And so, in the moments where you are real human, real raw, and oftentimes probably not professional or not the nicest human being, own that and apologize if necessary. And then in our embracing space, embrace building systems that make families co-creators instead of spectators. And so one of the things I truly love is the daily updates I give about with my son and how his day went in school. It doesn't have to be this long, verbose, detailed paragraph, but it can even be check boxes on how was his mood, what activities he engaged in today. Those things are incredibly comforting, and it invites parents in to the process. Build that into your system. Partnership isn't just a workshop. It is a part, it's infused in the culture of the school. Similarly, when I walk into my son's school, people are welcoming. The front desk people are nice and kind. They speak to me and they speak to my son. You remember names if you can, right? Those things matter. This is a rhythm and it is a mindset as well. The mindset is rooted in believing that parents are the experts in their children's lives and they must be engaged in every step of the process. So as we close out, of course, I want to give you some practical strategies as teachers. If you're a teacher listening to this, and if you are a parent listening to this, think about this as what you would want to see from the teachers in your child's life. Number one, start with a strength first touch point. Before the school year ramps up, reach out with one specific meaningful thing that you appreciate about your student, the children in your classroom. Something detailed that parents can actually utilize. So instead of like, he's so sweet, maybe try he asked another student how they were doing, and it changed the whole mood of the day. Give details so parents can actually see what and understand their child in practice. Families hear the difference, kids feel the difference, and most importantly, you set the tone. Number two, use family friendly language as much as you can. It's very hard to get caught up to not know when you're doing it. I certainly do it often. This makes me think I should probably create some sort of like translation document on like, if a teacher says this is what it actually means. But anyway, side note, human language invites people in. So instead of like, this is your child's deficit, say this is an opportunity that uh, we can work on, right? Instead of like, your child is being non-compliant, perhaps say like, he was a bit dysregulated today, because that's actually what it is. Say and build confidence and skills instead of, your child is lacking record, right? We're working on building skill sets. You're not dumbing it down. You are opening up possibility, and you are keeping the parent hopeful, which is essential, right? Number three, create a two-way communication. Newsletters are great and they're fine, but dialogue is also important. So survey parents to ask for feedback. Want a quick 2 to 3 question quarterly on how is their experience with you and their child in your classroom. Send random check-ins, a quick email. Hey, I just wanted to check in to see how things are going at home academically, if there's anything I can do at school, if there's anything I can send home. There are also tons of text apps that allow for quick communication as well. And again, not don't just focus on the things that are not working. When things are going well, feel free to send those messages as well. A quick email around what went really well today. I love when my son teachers send random pictures via email of the activities he's engaging in at school midday. It makes my day feel much better. So I encourage that as well. Number 4, ask families what schools look like for what success, I should say, looks like for them. Don't make assumptions and do not impose what you believe success looks like, right? You might assume success equals grades, but a family may say, I want him to feel more confident. I want him to socialize more. I want the mornings to stop being battles, right? And you all can thought partner on ways of what that can look like in practice or how you all can build towards that. So ask the family of what their goals are as well, as particularly as it relates to those IEP meetings. Academic success catapults when emotional and cultural success is honored too. And lastly, invite families as experts because they are. It doesn't matter what they look like. It doesn't matter what they sound like. It doesn't matter what type of career they have, how much money that they make. If a parent birth a child and they raise that child to get to the grade level that that child is now in your classroom, they are the experts with their child. They may not know the academic jargon or the milestones or the benchmarks, but they know elements of their child best. And I'll be honest, there are parents out there who have a difficult time seeing the assets and the strengths in their child. However, if you poke them enough and if you ask the right questions, something will uncover. But most parents know their child and the systems that work for them. They know how they learn. They know what calms them down. They know where their triggers are. They know what motivates them. They know what scares them. And they know how they shine. Ask them those questions. I get a question, like a survey questionnaire every year for my son's school where they ask about his likes and dislikes, what are his motivators, and I think that's incredible because the intention is to infuse it into the classroom. Essentially, school and home, if done right, should not feel that different for children. Partnership is not about perfection. You know that perfection word is like a thorn in my side. It is not about that. It's about presence and consistency. So, if you're a teacher, families aren't your critics, they are your collaborators. Utilize them, they can help you build a classroom that is efficient. And if you are a parent, teachers aren't the enemy, they're humans just like all of us. And they are trying to pour from cups that are rarely full. Teaching is a rigorous job that is incredibly underappreciated. So please be mindful of that as well. When we stop seeing each other as adversaries and start seeing each other as allies, ultimately our children win. Ultimately, school systems become more effective and truly communities also win. Partnership is the bridge, and our kids need us walking across it together. And when children see that there is misalignment or a gap, that can work against everyone. So, until next time, if you are a teacher, particularly right now, and as we are moving into winter break, I want you all to take care of yourself. Pat yourself on the back because you've made it through the first couple of months of this school year. You are still breathing, your head is still on your shoulders, and you're doing something right. Be gentle with yourself, be kind with yourself, root yourself in constant self reflection, and commit to making shifts along the way. And lastly, think about a parent who you haven't heard from in a while and their child is doing incredible in your classroom. Commit to sending a quick email to that parent, letting them know, hey, your child did this particular thing this week and it was incredible. And I just wanted to let you know. You would be so surprised how much that does for a parent. And if you are a parent, reach out to a teacher who you are grateful for and what they have done and provided for you and your child, and express that. Every year during this time of year, I send gratitude to my son's teachers. I write thank you cards, and oftentimes I'll give gift cards if I'm especially grateful, because I'm clear that when he is not with me, I want the adults in his life to ensure that he is safe and that he is whole. And so I also need to instill in them a sense of gratitude as well. So, with that being said, I really appreciate y'all. Enjoy this holiday break. And until next time, take care of yourself. Bye. This is Learning Curves and Coffee.